Hello everyone. Good morning. My name's John Yoram. I'm the Deputy Chief Exec at the Careers and Enterprise Company. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome everyone both in the room and online watching across the country to the Barbican Centre this morning for our Careers Excellence Seminar on Parental Engagement in Careers Education. I'm particularly grateful to the partnership that we have with the Gatsby Foundation for whom this seminar and the others that have preceded it wouldn't be possible. So thank you to the Gatsby Foundation for our partnership in making this happen. I'd really like to welcome everyone in the room, and particularly those online, which I know are watching across the country, having been in that position myself with some of the previous seminars, to the Barbican Centre. It's a fascinating place, and well done to all of you in the room for finding your way to the auditorium. It takes about half an hour or so. So hopefully the online joining was a little less traumatic than that. But it is a fascinating place. It was first conceived in the 1950s to fill a void created by the Blitz and to bring people back into the City of London from the suburbs. So some interesting sort of intent there. And my two favourite facts about it, firstly, that there were three architects that bid to design the estate. And they collaborated before they put in their submissions to say whoever was the winner would collaborate with the other two when the award was made, and that did happen, thankfully. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell, because it would be a horrendous story if somebody was. But that story of collaboration, I'm sure, will have some merit in the ongoing conversation that we're going to have this morning. The second fact that I like is it's a long list of famous people that have lived on the Barbican estate. So the three names that I sort of pick out would be Benazir Bhutto, Arthur Scargill, George Best. All three of those people have lived at the Barbican, and that's an eclectic and outstanding group of people, well, an interesting group of people, shall we say, that's only matched by the outstanding group of panellists that we have here today. Bettered. So that's the Barbican Centre. So welcome to everyone in the room and, as I say, online watching from across the country, I know. So I think it's only right in these opening remarks that I sort of acknowledge the term that we'll be using, the shorthand of parents, for what is a very broad spectrum of different structures and obviously a huge range of caring responsibilities that take place. We are going to use that sort of shorthand for purpose of ease, but I really want to acknowledge that is exactly that, and it does cater for a wide range of situations, and I'm sure we'll expand on that point later on as well. This is a really significant issue. I think for possibly for too long, in too many places, it's been in this sort of too hard box of work around careers education. It is an incredibly complex area around parental engagement, but we know the significance. We've known for a long time about the significance that parents and carers have on the choices that young people make. So it's only fitting that we engage in that conversation. And that's why, in partnership with the Gatsby Foundation, we as an organisation, the Careers and Enterprise Company, have also been engaged in this work for the last couple of years through a project that I'd like our next speaker to briefly introduce, which is Isabel Hutton, who's been leading that work for the Careers and Enterprise Company. So please welcome Isabel to the stage.
Thanks, John, and good morning to everyone in the room and at home. I'm Isabel Hutton, and I'm the Senior Strategy Manager at the Careers and Enterprise Company, which means I have the privilege of working with a group of people who are passionate about evolving our parental engagement in careers strategy. And for the last couple of years, this has taken the form in something called Talking Futures. Talking Futures is a joint Gatsby and Careers and Enterprise Company parental engagement programme, and it has the aim of supporting all parents to have effective careers conversations with their children. And for the CEC, this has meant giving careers leaders the motivation, capability and opportunity to enhance parental engagement in careers in their institutions. And for the last 2 years, we've focused on doing this by raising awareness of the importance of parental engagement in careers education and providing careers leaders with the tools and training to help them act on that understanding. The Gatsby Foundation have implemented a complementary direct-to-parents arm of the programme, which targets parents with accurate and encouraging information about their role in the careers education conversation. Now, all of that work has been informed and supported by a parental engagement steering group, which has members of which are from across the careers space and also include parental engagement experts. One such expert is an organisation called Learning with Parents, who unfortunately couldn't be here today in person, but who have such progressive and evidence-based approaches to parental engagement that we thought it was fitting to frame today's session with some messaging from them. So I'm just going to read that out from this paper. At Learning with Parents, we focus on how to support primary schools to build parental engagement in children's learning. We make the distinction between parental involvement and engagement. These are both important but are two different things. Parental involvement is key to ensuring that families feel a part of a school community. For example, knowing when PE or key events are. This builds a community that can support all families through their school journey. It is extremely important for all parents to feel involved in school life. But whilst it is important, this alone doesn't directly impact a child's outcomes. Parental engagement in a child's education is where the magic can happen. Engaging in learning and giving children that extra support at home can foster a shared enjoyment for what is being taught at school in the classroom. But this is a really complex thing to achieve. Parents face a range of complex barriers, have a variety of motivations, and best practice in one community may not be appropriate in another. This makes supporting parents difficult, but as a sector, we must start to conduct research, gain insights, and over time, learn what works. Only by supporting all parents and carers can we hope to build a fair education system in which every child has the chance to fulfil their potential. A lot of the principles we use in our work with primary schools can be applied to any level. For example, firstly, let parents know how important they are in supporting their child's careers education. Parents and carers don't necessarily know how important their input at home is, but they are the adults who know their children best. Secondly, think about the language you use when communicating with parents and carers. When talking to parents about careers, don't assume they know terms such as T-levels, for example. Thirdly, be aware of the power dynamic. Surveys have shown that only 4% of parents are happy to be called mum and dad by their child's teachers. So make sure you learn that name to show a partnership. Fourthly, avoid the term hard to reach. No parent or carer walks around thinking of themselves as hard to reach, and schools and colleges should do the same. And finally, remember all parents and carers want to support their children's learning. They just need to be given the tools to do so. Parental engagement takes time. It is that deeper, more personal relationship with parents that breaks down the barriers they face or faced in their own relationship with school, that empowers them to know their value and understand that they are able to support their child's education at all points and in all areas. The sector can only hope to improve parental engagement at all levels if we collaborate, share experience, knowledge and perspective to inform best practices and evolve our approach. And I think that's what we're going to be doing today. So it's with that inspirational messaging from Learning with Parents that I'm pleased to be able to pass over to Anna Morrison, who is another member of our steering group and who is going to guide the panel through a discussion about really how to apply some of that messaging we've learnt from Learning with Parents to a school send post-16 careers education context. Thanks, Anna.
Isabel, and good morning everyone. Really fantastic to be with you all today and to be asked to chair this fantastic event. I'm personally very excited to be here as a parent, but also through our organisation Amazing Apprenticeships, we have done a huge amount in trying to work with parents and carers to help them to become more informed and involved indeed in those apprenticeship and technical education conversations. I think what you were just touching on there from learning with parents is so important for us to really bear in mind, isn't it? That when we move through this morning, and this morning is going to be packed with ideas and inspiration and lots of takeaways for you, but that we remain really mindful of the many different types of families that we may have in all of our establishments and institutions, where we're trying to work with the child at the heart of those families to try and help parents to navigate this ever-changing and very complex sometimes landscape of options and careers information. So through Amazing Apprenticeships, we've been doing a few things. We launched a number of years ago something called the Parent and Carers Pack, which is now on its 47th edition, unbelievably, when I checked it this morning, 47 editions, where we've been putting this information out to parents, well, to schools to share with their parents for nearly 4 years now, and it's been really popular. What that tells us is there's a huge amount of interest from parents in getting informed. A piece of work we did recently working with the Hertfordshire and the Stoke and Staffordshire Careers Hubs was a great big parent and carer survey looking at their confidence in their own levels of understanding about apprenticeships and technical education, and indeed other options, other post-16, post-18 options. I don't think you would be surprised by the results, and I'll share them with you at a later date. But what was really encouraging was more than 80% of those parents were telling us they really do want to be informed and to get involved in this activity. So I think this is the perfect time really for us to have this fantastic expert panel discussion this morning, and to kind of round off the summer term equipped and inspired with lots of ideas and takeaways that we can hopefully take back into our own organisations, our own schools and communities, and try and implement some of the ideas that we might hear or build upon what's already working in your own establishments. So I'm going to lead into our first question today, and we really want to explore what excellence in parental engagement and careers education really looks like, and why it should be top of our priority list. Why is it that, you know, this, perhaps above other things, needs to take that top spot in as we move into the next academic year? And so, as Isabel pointed out, we will have had lots of experience, I'm sure, in this room and online of informing parents about different things. But let's make sure that we involve them. And that's going to be the focus of our discussions. How do we really get them involved? What's working? And how can we build on that? So, I'm going to move over to our panel discussion. And what we're going to start with is a quick introduction statement from each of our panellists, who will introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about some of the work that they've been doing. So I'm going to come to you first, Andrea, if that's okay. So can you share a bit about why your school felt it was really important to get involved in Talking Futures and how it fitted with what you were doing in your role?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Andrea Watts. I'm careers lead at Queen's Park High School in Chester. Our school felt it was really important to get involved in the Talking Futures because, quite simply, we understand that parents have such a significant influence on their child's career choices and decision-making process. In our area, in the Chester and Warrington LEP, there's been some research that's been commissioned, and the context and background to our involvement is that the research indicates that over 40% of parents in our area say they know little or nothing about their child's future career and education options, which blew me away, to be honest. That research also showed that 72% of people in our locality, parents, said they wanted more information, in particular around alternative and non-traditional next steps. They know about A-levels, they know about UCAS, but they have very little understanding about traineeships, T-levels and apprenticeships. And to a certain extent, that was echoed in our own in-school research. That's what our parents were saying to us. We don't know anything about, you know, T-levels, apprenticeships and so on. So we wanted to really focus on raising the awareness to address those misconceptions, because there are many misconceptions still out there around apprenticeships in particular. And we wanted to try and bridge that gap so that parents had the knowledge and understanding, and they were engaged with us in the process of encouraging their child to make those informed choices, because it is a partnership, particularly around our key transition points. So Talking Futures for us was targeted at our Year 9 cohort around the options process. All of this, or everybody in the audience and at home, really aligns with what our wider school values are, because at the end of the day, we're all here because we're about defining futures, making sure students have the knowledge, the skills, and parents have the knowledge and skills to be able to navigate future choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. It's going to be fascinating to get into kind of some of the ideas and the things that you've implemented. A huge gap there, isn't there, between that 40% and the 72%. So great piece of work. Habib, I'm going to come to you next and talk about your trust-wide approach, because, of course, you've got primary schools and secondary schools. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing?
Yeah, sure, Anne. My name's Habib Patel. Work for Star Academies Trust. Just to give you a bit of background, is the mic working?
Yes.
Yeah, fine, yeah. We started our first school in 1984 in a terraced house in a northern town in Blackburn. It was a Muslim girls' school, started for the community. Fast forward 2005, that school became and joined the state sector. Fast forward 2010, when the Free Schools programme started with the coalition government. Fast forward another 10 years, and we currently operate 30 schools up and down the country, out of which 19 are secondary schools and the remainder are primary schools. We have different programmes under the name of STAR. So Teach Like a Star, Behave Like a Star, Attend Like a Star. But our careers programme is called Star Futures. And we've branded it accordingly in terms of Star Futures, as the name says, about the future and where we want our young people to be. Now, the Star Futures programme starts at a very early age. It starts from primary school. And our parental engagement happens from primary school, first of all, in the core subject areas of English, maths, and science as well, because I strongly believe, and we strongly believe, that it cannot be done in isolation. The two have to happen together in terms of careers conversations along with attainment as well. And what I mean by that is we make it clear to our families and our parental sort of fraternity that without English and maths and science, forget careers, you cannot even access the future curriculum as well. So it's a stepping stone in terms of moving forward. But I think the critical element for us is the transition from year 6 to year 7. And especially the final parents' evening, when it happens at year 6, when they're saying goodbye to their sort of primary school teachers and schools in terms of their graduation. And we call it graduation, and I'm sure many others do as well, in terms of the whole graduation thing, in terms of cap and gown, etc., just to raise aspirations. But more importantly, that conversation is critical in terms of raising the aspirations of the young person, as well as the family and the parents as well, in terms of what can be achieved by this young person. When they move into secondary school, and you know, sometimes I'm smiling because sometimes we see it as it's like a police interrogation, because we sit down with the parents and try and understand as much about the family as possible. And again, if you're in the corporate sector and if you're in the corporate world, data intelligence is key. Yeah, and that's where you sell your stuff and you know, you really sort of focus your energy. Sometimes in public services, it's a universal service, and what we don't tend to do, understand the needs of the customer, and in this case, it's the family. Hence, the real understanding of the parents and the family dynamics and what's happening in that family is critical. And that's picked up very early on in year 7. And our Star Futures programme, it starts in year 7 as well, in terms of everything that we do with the young people moving forward. So in terms of the transition from year 6 to year 7, we have a number of sessions and initiatives which include parental engagement, family engagement, and understanding the dynamics of the family and what happens in that particular family.
Really fascinating. Thank you so much, Habib. It's going to be great, again, to get into some more of that detail. I love the idea of your graduation for your year 6s into year 7s. Such an important moment, isn't it, to build that aspiration. So fantastic. OK, Ingrid, we're going to come to you next. Now, Ingrid, thinking about post-16 settings. So often when young people perhaps move from a traditional school environment into a college environment, and thinking about parental engagement and how that continues and is really important post-16 as well. So do tell us more about your role and what you've been doing at your college. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Ingrid Kellock. I'm the Director of Student Experience at York College. And in my role within the further education sector, I'm acutely aware of the power of parental engagement and influence on students, and how that is made even more challenging by the mere transition from school to a new institution, like a sixth form college or a further education college. And as the complexity of the curriculum increases, it becomes much less likely that parents will understand what their child is working on day to day. So whether that's analysis of the accommodation theory in English language A-level, or whether it's practical approaches to motor vehicle maintenance or health and social care, curriculum content is often far removed from parents' own experience of work. So directly supporting education through homework or discussion of content is more problematic and more challenging for parents. And there's also the expectation that students aged 16 to 18 should be studying more independently, and with parents being less involved, which is a huge expectation for our young people. So it's just as important, if not more so, of course I'm going to say that, for parents to be involved in students' career decisions, and with the aim of improving students' chances of a successful post-college transition. So to enable effective parental influence to happen, I believe that further education institutions should be shaping their parental engagement strategy to prioritise two-way communication, which includes multiple touch points at pre-enrolment stage to schools liaison, but also include on programme stages as well, in preparation for the transition to higher education or employment. And also, if we can engage parents early via open evenings, visits to schools, guidance discussions, wider skills development workshops, which have proved enormously successful for us, and summer school activity, both within FE institutions and within schools, we can ensure that parents are well informed, that they're confident in engaging in those spontaneous careers-based conversations, and they can influence students effectively to secure a positive and successful onward journey.
Thank you, Ingrid. I love the use of the word spontaneous,
yes,
and thinking about these just naturally occurring conversations that parents might be able to have, rather than a sit down and a planned conversation, which of course could work as well. But yeah, really interesting. Thank you. Okay, we're going to introduce our last panellist here, so Kieran. Kieran, can you tell us more about how you've been supporting individuals post-16, particularly with their transitions through your programmes, and how important it is that parents are also involved in the work that you've been doing?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Kieran, and I work for a charity called Think Forward. And Think Forward, we have 3 individual programmes. So we have Future Me, we have Move Forward, and we have a new Future Leaders programme, which I'm the programme coordinator for. With the Future Leaders programmes, we are targeting 60 young black men who are, I wouldn't say disadvantaged, are under-resourced. So what we look to do is we take them like to Insight Day just to raise their career aspirations for 2.5 years. And what we've realised is parental engagement is so important for their educational journey. what we like to do is we like to have one-to-one coffee mornings with our parents if we can. We know how everyone's very busy at the moment. But with our one-to-one coffee mornings, we get the perception of what our parents think education actually is. So, for example, we've had some parents that think, it's school, college, university, job, and are successful. We know it's not like that. If it was like that, I'll be a lawyer or a doctor right now. So, it's not like that. So we try to literally bridge the gap between generational thinking. So we get the likes and the dislikes from our young person, and then we have our coffee mornings with our parents, and then we literally bridge the gap and say, well, for example, James, he likes music, he likes to do dance. This is what we can do. So we educate them on T-levels, entrepreneurships, traineeships, apprenticeships, and we go further. Degree apprenticeships, universities. We know, some of our young people, they might change their mind every minute. So it's good to equip them with, certain educations about post 16 and their transitions. So what we believe as well is at home, they're not talking at their child, they're actually having conversations now. So there's conflict, and it's more of a buy-in from our young person to say, my parent or guardian is now interested in what I'm looking to do, rather than telling me what I have to do. So we just find it's a good transition when we do that.
Fantastic, thank you. And yeah, really great to pick up on the point about the changing mindsets regularly. So alongside our changing education options, kind of complex landscape, we've got young people changing their minds, and absolutely, to be able to navigate through all of those different options and be able to pick the right information for them at the point of access that they need it. Really fascinating what you're achieving. You can see why they've been picked as panellists, can't you? Really fantastic work that we are starting to uncover today. So Habib, I'm going to come back to you to think about the work that you're doing with the Trust, because you talked about those very detailed conversations. We've all got that image of the interrogations, but I'm joking. The conversations that you have to try and understand the family setup, the needs,
Sure.
Thinking about the learner. Can you tell us more about that and some of the approaches that you've taken as a result of those conversations that you have with families?
Okay, if I can share two stories with you. One of our sort of friends of the school, she works in the corporate world, and this was a conversation that happened nearly 30 years ago. And it's interesting because she said, my parents were sort of summoned to school. This was a girl who lives in a northern town, city now, Preston. And they said, my parents were summoned into school. And I came into school. And, the parents came into school. And obviously she's been a bit naughty sort of thing. So, and so the teacher basically said, your daughter's been naughty, etc. And she's university material. And that's all the teacher said to the parent, that she's university material. He said, my dad, who's from Pakistan, first generation, 30 years ago, could hardly speak English, didn't really understand the education system, went home as if something fabulous had happened. Forget the reprimand elements and the fact that I've been naughty. The fact that the teacher said that I'm university material really changed the whole perception in our house in terms of my aspirations and where my father now wanted to send me, because let alone for him, university in Pakistan was miles away in terms of an aspiration. A university place for her daughter in the UK was something, this was 30 years ago, so you can imagine the dynamics of the family. And she ended up in university, now works in the corporate world and comes back to support our schools. But not only that, the impact that girl then had, and that one word of your university material had on the rest of the family as well. So that's 25, 30 years ago. Fast forward 30 years. My daughter's currently at Manchester University, and she was coming back with her friend who's at university as well. And I was waiting for her in the train car park. And there was a car parked in front of me. I sort of recognised the individual who was in there. Again, first generation from India. And I said, our daughters are travelling back together. And he said, yeah. And I said, your daughter, she's doing economics at Manchester. That's really good. If she gets a first class in economics, the world's her oyster. 2 days later, my daughter says to me, Dad, what did you say to, I won't say her name, but her father? I said, well, I just told her that, this is really, really good what she's doing. He said, because she said that after you've spoken to him, his attitude towards what she's doing at Manchester has completely changed in terms of where she's at what degree she's doing and where she's going to be. Before that, we were just kind of thinking, well, she's just at university, not really understanding what she's studying economics for, what's economics going to get for her, etc. So going back to the intelligence element and understanding the dynamics of the family, there's two examples of 30 years ago and this year, well, last year, because they've finished their first year now, in terms of, just two sentences in terms of raising the aspiration, especially with those families who haven't been to university, don't know what university is all about. So going back to the intelligence element, what we try and do is ascertain as much information about that family as possible. And also, what we tend to find as well is that sometimes a young person might have some aspirations, but then you get an opinionated, or some might say a gobby sibling, who might say, well, why do you want to do that? And straight away the young person becomes deflated, as well as the parents as well. So I think in terms of understanding the dynamics of the family, getting the nuances, the opinion makers in those families is absolutely critical. Also, coming from a sort of Asian sort of background as well, it's sometimes not just the immediate family, it's the extended family as well, and the community where these perceptions and this intelligence sort of comes from as well. And again, thanks to the CEC, we got some funding last year. We did some fabulous work with Causeway where we developed a parental booklet through the transition from year 6 to year 7 to try and understand in a softer way the intelligence that's required in terms of the young person's aspirations, the family's aspirations and the parents' aspirations as well. So I hope that answers my question.
No, it's really, really useful. Thank you. And I think that story really talks about the pride in the parents' choice. And I guess by being involved in that conversation, they are then able to have that positive influence, particularly thinking about the economics example that you gave, where perhaps she didn't feel like her father or family were perhaps backing her choice, but that simple, very quick conversation totally turned it around. You're absolutely right to pick up on siblings as well. We see this a lot, don't we? Siblings, I know we talk about parents as the key influencer for many young people, but I'm sure siblings have that equally powerful role. And I've seen it in apprenticeships often where perhaps the first child in the family does an apprenticeship. Often it has that ripple effect and we spot that other children in that family may also then take on an apprenticeship. So kind of carving out the career pathways. Really fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so Andrea, I think we'll come to you next if that's okay. And you're going to tell us about some of the stuff that you did for National Apprenticeship Week and the way that you involve parents. So do tell us more.
Okay, so our sort of core school values are about empowering minds and defining futures. And during National Apprenticeship Week, it's a key opportunity, as is National Careers Week, to really focus in and target parents with key messages. So we decided to run a dual event during National Apprenticeship Week. We focused in on our Year 9 cohort. We chose the Year 9 cohort because obviously they were at the point of key transition, making options choices. And 43% of our cohort fall into the disadvantaged target group. So what we did was we invited parents and students into school to attend a Futures event. And at the same time, we were also running our Year 9 Parents' Evening. So it served a dual purpose and parents came in once rather than twice. Within a short sort of space of time. So to reach the families that we most wanted to engage with, we used an extensive amount of communication with parents. A lot of it focused on the use of social media. So we used every social media platform because in our setting we do get a lot of parents who do follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We put information out via the traditional sort of school communication channels. We sent out a letter detailing our careers programme, outlining the importance of the event, what we were trying to achieve. And as a follow-up to that then, the pastoral and admin teams within the school targeted specific parents with phone calls. So it was about that constant messaging. Are you going to come? This will really be valuable because. So once we got the parents into our school environment, we made sure the event was actually in a real central location. Parents had no option but to walk through our event. It was really active, it was two-way, so it was set up like a marketplace. There was information displayed on boards, and there was stands with different employers talking about different options. Ask Apprenticeships were there, so they could talk about apprenticeships, T-levels. We had independent training providers. And again, the parents had no option but to engage with that. And we had a team of staff saying, come over. Oh, you're interested in this. Come over and speak to this person. And that was the difference between engagement and non-engagement, to be honest. It was that whole team approach. The research that we've done shows that 68% of parents expect to find out about careers and education options from school communication alone. So for us, it's about having that constant and persistent messaging around what the offer looks like, around what T-levels are, apprenticeships. We have our school website full of really useful information. We signpost parents to that. We are constantly communicating via our social media, school network communication systems, phone calls, and then finally through our newsletter, which always has a feature about what is available, where they can get information from, who they can contact, i.e. me, within the school environment. So really it's about opening up that communication.
It's really interesting how you point out all of the different communication techniques, I guess, that you need to try and use when you're reaching out to parents to engage them in that information, and how it can't be a one-time thing. So perhaps where previously we might have had just an options evening, and that was, he needed to be there to receive that information. Actually, technology means that we can now be a bit more creative in how we share that message. Have you seen that one approach has been really popular? So, I don't know, social media, for example, is that a top one, or website usage?
Yeah, quite a lot of, we decided that we'd ask the parents, how do we want you, how do we need to communicate with you? And the feedback in our context came back as Twitter. So, and letters, the traditional sort of method that you might use. So we put an incredible amount of marketing and communication out on social media to our parent body. They want short, sharp, snappy information rather than a two-sided A4 letter. So for us, that works well. But again, we started that process by asking the parent, how do you want us to communicate with you? And as I've said, it's really important that it is a whole school approach here. I'm a busy careers leader, I teach, I head up a curriculum subject as well. So I know that the admin team were working behind the scenes, the marketing team are working behind the scenes, the pastoral team are making phone calls, while I'm teaching. And that's the reality. And I think we can't underestimate the power in having that whole school approach to making these events work and harnessing the parental engagement.
It's huge, isn't it? You've
Huge.
just set out, to do it properly, thoroughly, and as regularly, and to the quality that we want to be able to do it to. It needs some resource behind it, and that resource comes from the whole team effort.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Ingrid, did you want to come in? Is there something similar that you've done in your college?
Yeah, there is. And just going back to your survey with parents, we asked our parents how they would like to be communicated and they want to be communicated with in a variety of different ways at different times. So we've sort of incorporated that. We've we've embedded an app, which I know a lot of primary and secondary schools have got, but it's quite new for FE institutions. So we communicate in lots of different ways. But we decided to try an approach where we would give the ownership of some careers-based activity to our curriculum areas. So we've introduced industry weeks or curriculum showcase weeks for curriculum areas to basically show off about everything that they do, for them to showcase student work, for them to bring in employers, because a lot of parents want to know what the end result is going to be. You know, where can my child you know, secure employment? So we bring in employers as well, so our parents can come and experience what other students are experiencing, and it really gives all of our curriculum areas a showcase opportunity to be able to send the message out to parents and cross college and to other institutions in the local area.
Thanks, Ingrid. So similar to Andrea, kind of really thinking down to curriculum level, how some of those conversations or opportunities, moments to engage parents in different ways. Bringing in employers is interesting, and having an app for parents as well. So Kieran, you're nodding. Have you got an app?
Oh, maybe I haven't. No, I disagree with it.
But you like the idea?
Yeah, I love
Excellent.
the idea,
Fantastic.
I think as well, you know, it's at all levels is what we're talking about here, because I have the absolute backing of the senior leadership team, and it's right from the top, right the way through the organisation, down to the site team who put the tables and chairs out for the parental engagement event. They're all on board, and it's that culture of a team approach that's absolutely critical to everything you do. I know, you know, and I have security in the fact that I can't do it on my own, and I've got a team who are very busy in their own right, doing lots of other things, but I know if I ask them, they will do it for me, you know, and they'll do it well. And everybody knows what they need to do, and it's driven by those key messages, and you really need to be persistent and clear in what we're doing, why we're doing it, why it's important, what impact that's going to have. And it takes a long time to get to that point. You know, it's taken me around 5 years to get to the point where everyone is on board, you know,
within the organisation.
Yeah.
And have you tracked parents that are engaged or not as engaged? So, you know, for a variety of reasons, we know there's many good reasons that parents may not be able to come along to an actual event. Doesn't mean they're not doing brilliant things with their child at home, of course, but have you seen a rise in engagement, and how do you measure that? Is it kind of the questions that are coming into you? Like, is your inbox filling up with parents wanting to know or access information?
We looked at, obviously, to look at the impact at our events. We knew exactly which parents and which students had attended the event, and then those that hadn't, we followed that up again with phone calls. Do you need anything from us? How can we help you? We noticed that you weren't at the event, and I think that's important to sort of close that loop. And then also to try and measure the impact, I just put a quick Google form out to parents on our school communication channel, and had feedback. What could we do to improve the event? What did you get out of the event? So we had some impact information, and then obviously that will help us shape the next event that we do.
Help shape it, and also help to show your colleagues as well, who perhaps, you know, to be able to build that engagement, for them to see and understand the impact that that's having with those families.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. And Kieran, can I bring you in, because post-16, and particularly if it's not a school setting for post-16, and Ingrid, I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on this as well. I know what I was like as a 16-year-old, and I didn't really want my parents involved in any conversations about my future, because I thought I knew it all and could work it out on my own. So is there ever any resistance, and is there any examples that we might bring out from that?
Yeah, there's some resistance with some parents, because I think with our programme, they're used to having, you know, some phone calls and it's always negative feedback. So it's like when we do give them a call, a text message or an email, it's always positive feedback.
Right.
But when we do come across certain barriers, what we do to, I think what you were saying is changing their perception. We have a workshop called Talk with Our Parents. And with Talk with Our Parents, we literally get all our parents in and our young people in. So we might have them on the young people on one side and the parents on one side, and literally just say what you need to say with no repercussions. So literally say what you need to say, get it out. So at the end of that, the parents now, they have a different perception of what their young people actually want to do, some young people, their sons or daughters want to do.
Yeah.
And therefore it gives the young person now a voice to actually let their parents hear them. So we could tell the parents, you know, this is what you might want to do at home, but we just don't know how they're delivering it at home.
Yeah.
So this gives them a space of, you know, say what you need to say and all have a better understanding of how we need to move forward post-16. And within that workshop, we have another workshop, like 2 workshops called, you know, what could we create? Within that workshop, we get our young people to write down their likes, their dislikes, what they want to do, and their parents are there looking at it as well. So as we know, you know, 70% of the jobs haven't been created yet.
Yeah.
Think about social media. 84% of us within the UK are on social media. Think about when we was younger, I couldn't be on the phone if my mum was on the internet, kind of thing, you know what I mean? So, you know, so it's a situation where there's something that you can create. So they have something tangible. So when the parents come and say, do you know what, well, I can see my son or daughter wants to do this, this is how I can get involved. So they have something tangible. So it's all, again, about all interlinking and changing the perceptions and everything like that as well. But with us, we are very visible. So when it comes to parents' evenings, graduations, if they're like a dance recital, we are always there. So just to show that, you know, you do have our support, and anything that you need, we are here for you as well. So it's just literally building that rapport and that relationship.
Really excellent. I love the idea of it being a kind of almost like a workshop where the child, the son or daughter, is able to work with their parents on kind of planning or thinking about their futures. Less of a kind of, well, I want to do this, well, I want you to do that, a kind of clash potentially, but actually a kind of collaboration.
Of course.
And do you give them a toolkit or any kind of guidance for continuing that conversation at home?
Yeah, so again, once we have our one-to-ones with the parents, we always set targets for that term. So I think with future leaders, the minimum we need to speak to our term is 3 times within that term. But with future leaders, we speak to our parents every week. Literally every week.
With that positive feedback every week?
Every week we give them with that positive feedback. It could be anything. So we deal with alternative provisions. And so our parents are used to getting negative calls. No, we say, do you know what? At that insight day, for example, James did really good. He was interactive. He was talking to someone that could just always that positive feedback every single week. So again, it just literally builds a relationship up. Again, if you can't get through to them via call, we understand, you know, some parents are very busy. Text. You can't text, like WhatsApp. If you got WhatsApp, email. It gets to a point where, you know, if we need to, it hasn't happened with us at Future Leaders Programme, but door knocks. We have to do door knocks where, due to safeguarding reasons, it has to be 2 of us to go, but literally do door knocks.
Incredible. And have you noticed a difference in the destination outcomes of the people that you're working with?
Yeah, for example, we've had some of our young people, and they might say, at the start of September, they might say, you know what, sir, I'm interested in music, I want to do music. That's fine, but when we take them on an insight day to, for example, Reed Smith or GIC, and they see themselves that they can't see it, they can't be it, right? So they need to go out to these places to see themselves in these settings. And you hear their kind of thoughts change. Well, sir, I can actually be a lawyer. I can actually be a solicitor. So it's just literally taking them out and just opening their eyes and giving them different options.
Fantastic, really inspirational stuff. Ingrid, is there anything else that you've been doing kind of post-16, thinking about your students and other touch points, different ways you might engage parents?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about spontaneous and induced involvement.
Okay, just say that again. So we've got spontaneous
and induced involvement or engagement, and it's a study that was done by Lucy Sattler in Australia, and it's really interesting, the concept, but it's enabled us to have sort of a multifaceted approach. You know, we know that it's important for parents to have access to relevant, localised and accurate information about employment pathways, training pathways, higher education courses, T-levels, apprenticeships. But it's also really important that parents have the skills to listen to students and provide that supportive feedback on a day-to-day basis, and that is where we see the power of influence is through those really naturally occurring holistic conversations that parents can have with their young people. And you know, the college doesn't need to initiate the involvement for that to occur, but what we know is parents don't know what they don't know, so we've sort of got to provide information, but then allow parents to have the opportunity to build the skills and have conversation starters with their young people that are naturally occurring. So we want parents to be empowered to choose when and where they engage with these organised activities, because we want parents to feel as empowered as students do in making those career decisions. So we've built in sort of a schedule of progression activities, careers-based activities, for us to be able to share that essential information with parents, and having workshops and talks with parents around actual conversations. So that's what we've been working on.
Fantastic. And I guess the spin-off is that they also get information to support their own career progression as well. So kind of like joining it all up. Really fantastic. Yeah. Okay, right, that brings us to the end of our panel discussion. So can I ask everyone to please put their hands together to thank our panel? Really fantastic. Thank you. Really great. Okay. They're not going anywhere though, so we will be coming back for Q&A at the end, but it's my great pleasure to now introduce you to Becca Thurston, who is the Early Careers Manager at Wessex Water. And Becca has travelled a long way this morning to come and join us and be able to share her thoughts, so thank you from the employer perspective.
Thanks, Anna. It would have been much quicker if I'd not gone right round the circle line. It's fine. So just a little bit about me. I've got my notes on a phone because I'm down with the kids. Yeah. So a little bit about me. Actually, it was 23 years ago this year that I put my first apprentice into employment. It was back when it was 50 quid a week, and it was just an MVQ they were doing. So I've seen quite a lot of changes in my time. But I now work for Wessex Water. The clue is in the title. We're a water company. We're based down in the southwest. Our operations centre is in Bath. And we're also a cornerstone employer for the Heart of the Southwest as well. I joined Wessex Water in 2015 when I realised, very similar to if they can't see it, they can't be it, and they don't know what they don't know. Do you know nobody leaves school saying they'd like to be a leakage inspector? Well, I've now got my own leakage stick. So, and I kind of realised that it was my role as what was then apprenticeship coordinator to change that. And we looked at how we could do that. So actually in 2016, Wessex Water opened its doors for the first time to families to come to for a careers day. So we held our first apprenticeship open day on a Saturday where we invited young people, we invited their parents to come along, we had the coffee shop open, we told them that the siblings were allowed, and it was quite a relaxed environment. And we followed a format that I think you're probably quite familiar with, that marketplace. I think we had 7 or 8 different teams there, and the queue is out the door. Now, I work with engineers, so we changed that pretty quickly, and then people had to book in time slots. So the next year we did it, they booked in time slots, and we probably had about 8 different teams there. And I think one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to engage our communities in our opportunities, very similar to what I've been hearing. You know, parents need to trust you, and that is exactly the same as an employer. You know, they need to trust us. And so what we wanted to become was kind of a trusted employer. In 2018, we got a little bit better at what we were doing, and somebody said to me, she's left the company recently, Eva, I think you're online, thanks Corsham School for stealing my coordinator. She moved to a school to be their coordinator, but Eva said to me, she said, there's so much information in your head, and we need to help parents understand what the options are. So in 2018, we actually introduced seminars into those careers days where parents could come along and learn about what is an apprenticeship, and the different routes into the water sector. To become a chartered engineer now, there are 22 different ways you can go from GCSE. At least I got bored at that point. So we were really keen that actually it was our place as employers to talk to these parents and to help them understand what apprenticeships were, so we could make sure that they were choosing and advising the right information. Then, because obviously we recruit a number of apprentices every year, we're going to take on 60 this year, which is double what we normally do. So we then introduced what we've called a parents' hour, because we acknowledge that actually at the end of the recruitment process, we then have a group of young people, typically, who kind of looked and you guys are all saying get involved parents. Well, when they come to me, I go away parents. I'm not employing you. And actually that's a real different dichotomy to what they're used to having. So we introduced the parents' hour, and we actually explained to the parents how to support their young people in that transition from pupil to employee. Yeah, so we do that, and that's been really, really well received. So we do all of these things, and then actually I'm going to ask you guys some questions, okay? Because I like to be interactive, yeah? I'm going to assume who here or online works for a business, a school or otherwise, with more than 10 employees. Excellent, okay? I would also like to ask who is a parent. Okay, some of us are wise and haven't gone down that route. I like it. Well, here's a bit of a drop the mic moment for us at Wessex. We realise that we have 3,000 members of staff at Wessex, and I'm going to guess that 60% of them are parents. That's nearly 2,000 parents we can contact. So we've spent the last however many years going, come on schools, come on institutions, get parents involved. Oh, hold on a minute. We've got access to more parents than you have, yeah? So actually we then started to think, well, what can we do to help educate the parents in our company about the options? So we now do a post-16 options annual webinar in National Apprenticeship Week, and it's one of the most, we do webinars all the time, we call them learn at lunches. You don't get lunch, you just learn. But you know, we looked, and it's one of the most attended webinars that we do, and we talk about T-levels, and we talk about BTECs, and we talk about different levels, and then we support that with pages on our intranet sites where we explain the levels more than anything else, you know. And I have had to put a column on there for old school, so we go back to CSEs, O levels, and ONCs, to help our engineers understand what they are. And actually we also offer IAG sessions to the young people of our parents. And I'm very pleased to say that our Chief Operating Officer and our Chief Retail and Commercial Officer, I've spoken to their young people about potentials of apprenticeships and different routes into things. My next challenge for me at Wessex Water is we have 2.8 million customers. And if I could get my hands on that audience to tell them about the different routes from post-16, let me assure you, I absolutely would. I think what I'm saying is actually, as employers, we have got a more significant role than we can imagine. And I think working with the CEC and the cornerstones, it's really not just about how do we help you as schools reach your parents, but actually how do we as employers reach our own parents. And I think it can only, you know, we're not talking hundreds or thousands. If we can reach our parents and our employees and our customers, that's millions of people we can help change the rhetoric for. But I think it's about working in partnership. I always tell Wessex they were very lucky to get me. And not every employer has an early careers manager that's quite obsessed with apprenticeships as I am and have that background knowledge. But you do as schools. And I think that's where we can really come together, and you can start to link with your employers in a two-way relationship as much as the one-way relationship that we're quite used to.
Becca, thank you. Do stay there, I think, because I think we will have some reflections from our panel. We are going to come to the audience shortly for Q&A. But Becca, that's just incredible to think about the energy and passion that you've put into building up that kind of careers programme at Wessex Water. Has it taken investment from the top? Has it taken that recognition of time, potentially money as well, to be able to build a programme like that?
I don't think there was any money involved. There was a lot of time and a lot of... I think like anything, you know, the businesses don't know what they don't know either. And I think it does take, Wessex have been very good to me in that they have allowed me to shape what I wanted to shape. And I think it takes a brave company to do that. But in terms of time, yes, when I started, there was just me, and I've just put in a proposal to double the size of my team to 12 to take us through to the next, we work in odd amps, but to take us through to 2030. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And Habib, I think you've got a question for Becca.
No, there was nothing.
Oh, okay. Any of our other panellists want to, any reflections on what Becca was describing there? Anything similar that you've been engaged with?
Certainly in my locality, we have the benefit of working with the Cheshire and Warrington Pledge Partnership, which is a huge movement that connect schools with employers, because at times it is quite difficult to get some of the employers on board. I know when I initially started the job a number of years ago, when I was trying to approach employers, can we work with you? There were some shut doors. I then went out to parents. You work in organisations. As a parent, do you want to work with us? One reply, Over the years, it's about building those networks, that database of employer connections, which is something then which gives you a go-to resource. And like I've said, we also have the benefit in my local area of working with the Pledge, who connect schools and employers. And that's so powerful and so critical to careers education being successful.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really important angle as well, isn't it, for parents? If they can see that line of sight to an employer with real jobs, it helps the rest of it to fall into place. So can we put our hands together to thank Becca once more? Thank you, Becca. You can take a seat now. Thank you. Okay, it's time for our audience members to, if they've got any questions. So if you would like to ask a question to one of our panellists, please do raise your hand. And if you can just introduce yourself, say your name and organisation, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Liz from Greater Manchester Combined Authority, so NEC up there. You talked about kind of wielding your staff to support with your engagement, and you talked about them kind of doing the admin-y things. I linked with a school for the Talking Futures Parent National Apprenticeship Week. Did you do a staff CPD so they were able to speak about apprenticeships and T-levels? Because I think there's that engagement, that education engagement step that staff who are teaching day in, day out the curriculum don't necessarily know all the 22 different pathways of getting into chartered. I'm as a physics teacher, I had no idea there's 22 pathways to get into chartered engineering. But so did you run staff CPD alongside that so that then every single parent's evening from that and on, they were enabled to then have those conversations and you've got that longevity?
Thank you.
I suppose that's for me. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't look at
Yeah, there has been staff CPD, and it's about that constant drip feeding and messaging to all staff for a number of years, but particularly for the event, the staff that were in the area where we had our careers focused event were all upskilled. We could confidently talk about T-levels apprenticeships.
And what did that upskilling look like? Was it a one-off session? Was it materials, a mixture of things?
A mixture of things. And if they didn't know, it was sort of like, well, Andrea may know, or somebody else in the room. For example, we had Ask Apprenticeships at the event. So a lot of parents naturally migrated over to the Ask Apprenticeship sign, where they wanted to know about apprenticeships specifically, independent training providers as well. We had a lot of, signage sort of saying this person can help you with independent careers advice, this person can help you with understanding more about traineeships specifically. So there was that signposting to the relevant people as well within the room.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Yes,
if I can come back on that one as well, because at Star Academies we run Star Institute, which is our teacher training programme, and it's a very valid point you make there with regards to the minimum level that each teacher or trained teacher should have around understanding around careers, because clearly that's the touch points. So yeah, it's a very valid point in terms of what's the minimum standard. But you'll find that then they need to know about safeguarding, they need to know about this, that. So it's a bit of a challenge in terms of...
Do you have a minimum standard that you've set for your colleagues?
I wouldn't call it minimum standard where it's kind of ticked off sort of thing, but our careers coordinators or leads in each of our schools will try and run CPD sessions or sessions within the school to try and get as many teachers to understand the whole sort of career pathways and understanding of that area.
Yeah, excellent. That's nice how it's shared across the colleagues, because often you will have that expertise across the organisation, not always on the shoulders of the careers leader. Ingrid, did you want to come in?
Yes, I've got a question. Sorry.
Okay.
No, not supposed to. But just for Andrea and Habib, around your engagement with post-16 institutions, how far do you engage with them to ensure that you can make sure that that CPD is across institutions? So do you engage with them for further education institutions or sixth form colleges to come into school and do that CPD with members of staff?
We haven't necessarily had a college in to talk to our staff in a CPD sort of context, but we have really strong relationships with the FE and HE colleges and universities in our area, and they are really active in working with us, and they are known and they come in, so our students know who the person is coming into us from Cheshire College or Coleg Cambria. So again, it's about, I suppose it's about building relationships at all levels.
And I only ask that because as a college, we haven't gone into enough schools. We've gone into a couple, but I think it's probably a really important, approach that we need to.
It's very interesting, isn't it? I wonder with the expansion of the provider access legislation, if providers are increasingly going into schools, there's an opportunity to do two things there and for more staff to be involved in those sessions, or if you've got them on site, could you do a lunchtime thing perhaps with those other provider types to help to build, because it's confidence as well, isn't it? Kind of, I haven't met a teacher who is resisting information ever, but it's just confidence in being able to talk about all of those different options and not give misinformation actually or misguide their students. So yeah, really interesting. Habib, did you want to come in on anything else?
Yeah, no, something similar. That, we have a lot of good engagement from the FE sector coming into the schools, and that relationship is fairly strong.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, any other questions from the audience? Thank you. The microphone will just travel to you.
Hi, I'm Matt Goodwin from Blythbridge High School, sixth form in Stoke-on-Trent. Thank you for the panel for some real food for thought. You mentioned about using Google Forms to measure impact with parents. And I just wondered how they communicate with parents, because I've used those myself and the response rate is not always brilliant to make any sort of valid judgments on every time we use them. So I was wondering if you've got any tricks to use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So after obviously our event, I put together the Google form, sent that out, had an initial sort of response, wasn't happy, I should say, with the response that I got back in terms of number. So went back out again with sort of a reminder, please help us with this. It's so critical. We have, it's your voice to help shape our programme, what we do next. Therefore got much more feedback as a result of that. I thought, I'm still not happy with this. I'm going to do some cold calling. So I did actually get on the phone to parents and say, I noticed you attended the event, but you haven't filled in any feedback for me. Do you mind having a conversation with me? And quite a lot of our parents were like, yeah, sure, no problem. Or we just haven't got around to doing that yet. And they were really open. And there were some parents that said, oh no, I haven't got time at the moment. Fair enough. You're not going to win everybody over. But again, for me, what was important was having those qualitative sort of conversations with parents. That was much more impactful than having data from a Microsoft form. So again, relationships, having those conversations, asking the questions. I think is really important.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Kieran?
I think it's the same thing, just to feed on what you were saying. I think it's the relationships. I think when we did type forms and we always needed some feedback. But as you know, the months went on, we realised I'll call you at 8 o'clock in the evening, but I can do that now because of the relationship that I have with our parents. Let's say I would call them 8:30. I'm on the phone to you. Do you mind just literally feeding out this feedback form? If it's hard, I can do it with you. You know, and it literally takes 3 minutes. So when you, as you said, when you build that relationship with your parents, you know, you can see an increase in people doing your Google forms or your type forms.
Really lovely, thank you, thank you. Okay, we're going to come up to Sophie now because I understand we have some questions from our online audience today. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, we have a couple of questions coming in from the online audience. So one of them sort of touched on something that Habib started to talk about in terms of starting from year 7 and continuing through. Was we've mentioned quite a lot about engaging parents at particular sort of transition events or options events. But how do we engage parents in what's going on now? So all the way through raising the profile of the careers programme with parents. So whether that's supporting experiences of the workplace, when your upcoming personal guidance sessions are, how do we raise the profile of the careers education programme throughout from sort of year 7 onwards with parents and families?
Thank you. Habib, would you like to tell that one?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we have something called the Star Futures programme, which is at every touch point. So it's not just the options point or the transition point, it's throughout the whole schooling of the young person, where the Star Futures programme is, if I use the word, kicks in. So it's not specific, but it's all, yeah. And you see in our schools that do it well, you'll see the Star Futures culture within the school, you know, because the attainment will reflect that, the aspirations will reflect that, the understanding of different career routes will reflect that as well. So it's not obviously the emphasis happens at strategic points, but the real ones who do it really well, you can just feel it in the school across every year group, and if I say every day throughout the school.
Lovely, thank you. Sophie, were there other questions?
Yeah, sort of related to that is we've talked about impact measurement in terms of maybe the difficulties of getting a Google form completed, but more broadly, have there been any successes across the panel in terms of impact measurement and changing things as a result of feedback from parents to make the careers programme slightly different next year, for example, based on feedback from parents?
Kieran, do you want to take that one?
I think the changes that we'll make in terms of the insight days that we might have planned. So we, you know, again, our young people always change their minds. So they might say at the start of September, we want to do something in construction. So we will take them to something like a multiplex construction site. And the feedback form might say, you know, my son didn't really quite enjoy it. So at least we know from next time, we might just take them to another construction site, or we just know what to do with certain insight days, how to mix it up a little bit. So yeah, these feedback forms are very, very important to what we're going to do next and what we need to change going forward.
Thank you. And Habib,
Just a couple of examples from ourselves with regards to things we've changed based on the feedback is in one of our schools we had a careers fair run by our alumni. So those who left the school and came back and run the programme, and the parents came in with the young person at the weekend as well. It was specifically held at the weekend, so the parents could attend. However, some of the feedback was it'd be nice to have parents there. So the following year, we had the alumni with their parents. So whilst the young person was speaking to the young person, the parents were speaking to the parents about the young person's experience. Another example very recently is we were fortunate last year to have the Ivy League outreach officer come up north to one of our schools. Again, you know, never been up north in terms of, and it's all about raising aspirations, etc. Again, we had him this year, and we talked about the Ivy League when we were launching our sixth form for the new intake. And then one of our senior leaders overheard some of the parents saying, it's fine about Ivy League, but I want my son to do the higher apprenticeship because it's a boys' school. I want my son to do a higher apprenticeship rather than get into debt sort of thing. So it was just some parents talking, but we very quickly picked that up and thought, you know something, we need to get the balance right, not just talk about Oxbridge and Ivy Leagues, etc., but talk about the other routes as well, especially the higher apprenticeships, because there's more and more now what we're finding is people want to go for the higher apprenticeships because they get a degree and get paid and not have the debt at the same time as well.
Thank you. Yeah, finance is a big part of these careers conversations that need to happen as well, so that we've got all of the options, all of the information, and families can help to make really informed decisions then. Ingrid, you're nodding along, so is there something that you've done in your college to kind of support this?
Yeah, we've had a focus on the development of wider skills, soft skills, employability skills, and we've found that that's been really well received by parents, particularly because I think that they can really identify with those wider skills, rather than it being sort of an academic focus that they need to having those spontaneous conversations with their young people about. So we've implemented a programme of developing wider skills, but then started talking about those with parents, so they can support their young people with them through those conversations at home.
Brilliant, thank you. So many ideas, aren't there? Okay, any other thoughts from the panel? And then we've got time for one or two more questions from the audience, I think.
No, I'm just about to talk about with the feedback forms as well. I think with our parents, you know, the parents are heavily involved. They will always tell us, you know, can we do this, can we do that, can we do... And some things that we can't do. But if we can't do it, we'll always call back and say, do you know what, we appreciate that, you know, your involvement, but for this kind of situation, we won't be able to. But, you know, it's, as well as giving our young people the voices, it's always good to give our parents a voice as well, to make them feel more involved and build a relationship like that as well.
That's a really, really good example of helping them to feel heard,
Yes,
I guess.
of
So
course.
if they're
Give them a
giving their
voice.
feedback and taking time to engage with you,
Exactly.
that you're closing the loop on that and thanking them. Yeah, brilliant example. Thank you. Okay, we have time for one more question from the audience, please. So, okay, the mic is on its way to you.
Thanks. I'm Amberly McKean. I work in the City of Peterborough School. I've got a bit of feedback on the feedback form, actually. We had a bit of trouble with it. And we did a feedback for you, feedback for us, and it was like a grab and go. So we'd have like a posh coffee shop before they left with a little bag of chocolates. And we had an array of laptops set up. So it was like an exchange, come and have... We'll make you a coffee, take some time to make that coffee. Yeah. Why don't you just fill in the feedback form? And we got a huge uptake on that. And it was nice for them to go away with coffee and a bit of a chocolate as well. So that's just something that worked for us. I thought I'd give you that feedback. I was really interested to hear about the spontaneous and induced kind of engagement research that you were talking about, Ingrid, and the conversations and workshops that you have with parents to help with conversations at home with students. Naturally, I'm sure everybody in this room will appreciate that, I know we shouldn't label it, but the hard-to-reach parents are linked to the children that are at risk of NEET. And those, I'm sure everybody in the room will agree, are the ones that we really want to reach and won't come to those workshops or won't engage with those events that we put on. We can put on the most amazing events, but unfortunately we're not going to reach those ones we want to reach. Is anybody in the panel got any ideas or advice or, you know, magic wands that you might be able to give us to kind of help us with how we do reach those parents? Because I'm sure that's what we're all kind of hoping from this is, do you have anything that kind of is that magic nugget that we could take away as well? I know that's almost an impossible question.
Really excellent question, and I'm just going to warn our panel that we've probably got 1 minute each. So if you want to, think of your best idea to be able to share with the audience today, that'd be fantastic. So Andrea, should we come to you first?
Yeah, I'm aware of an example in the Cheshire area. It's not our school, but it's something I am aspiring to trial as well. So a different school in our locality, high percentage of disadvantaged students. And what they trialled was a parental engagement event in the community. So they went to the local community centre, created an event space, again, reached out to all of the hard-to-reach families, found out who were the big players, you know, in the community. Can we get them on board? Can we get them in? We also, I know that they put on some like childcare facilities and activities for younger siblings, because quite often that is a barrier. Yeah. And there was an incredible amount of pizza that was also supplied, again, so that we could get people from the community into that event. So everybody was catered for in terms of food, siblings being looked after, and it was in the heart of the community. So that was a really successful event.
Thank you. Really good practical ideas there that can be taken forward, like really, really quickly. So
Really quickly,
Ingrid.
okay. So we have pastoral progress coaches that are the contact between college and home. So they will have a list of our most vulnerable students, and they will liaise with parents on a day-to-day basis. So we would invite and speak to those parents through that mechanism.
Thank you. Kieran, anything else to add briefly?
Yeah, I just think with us, we're very consistent in getting the phone calls, and you know, with these phone calls that we're having with our parents, sometimes they might say one thing about what they like, and we just literally latch onto that and see if we can get a buy-in from that, and then hopefully they will change their perception, and hopefully we will see a change in the future.
Like finding that common ground.
A bit similar. What we tend to do is a bit of a negotiation with the family. So give you just one example, kind of relates to careers, but we have something called intervention sessions where you're falling down on a subject area and then you get this after school and to try and make up. So some parents will clearly say, well, that's fine. They'll come for English and maths, but they're not coming for French. So that's fine. You let them, rather than come for all three, just bring them for English and maths. So that negotiation element is critical.
Amazing. Look, we promised you 90 minutes of ideas, innovation, creativity. We could talk all day, couldn't we? But can I ask you to put your hands together once again for our amazing panel? Thank you. Thank you. And I'm now going to hand over to Nicola Hall, Head of Education for the Careers.
Thanks, everybody, and thank you hugely to Anna for chairing with such accomplishment today, but also to our panellists for all of their contributions. But also to all of you in the audience, I saw many hands up with far more questions than we're able to take within the time limits that we've got today. I think it becomes more challenging every one of these excellent seminars that we have for me to summarise what we've heard today. And I think there are three key takeaways from me that have really stood out, and those are really similar to the principles that we talk about for the whole of our education, careers education and guidance programmes. And the first of those is that parents are not a homogenous group. They all have very, very different needs, and those needs will be very different depending on your schools and colleges as well. The schools that I worked in had very different needs of different cohorts of parents with different groups of young people. And I think being able to cater for those parents, to understand them, as we've heard today, and to genuinely involve them in a way that is right for them is much, much more important than us as school leaders saying, well, we're running an event and this is how it runs. That isn't the way we're going to really develop full involvement of our parents. The second message that I've really heard today, and I've heard it consistently, is that parental engagement and involvement is everybody's job, and it works best and it works really, really well when everybody has a stake in it. So in the same way that we talk about our whole school and college communities being our careers communities overall, similarly, this is one aspect of that particular work. And the more involved the whole, the stronger the offer. And the third thing that I've heard today is the importance of starting early. Not all of you will be able to work with primary schools and primary children. Some of you will be able to because of the trusts that you work across. But all of you have transitions points. How much is careers from a parental engagement perspective built into your transition offer between year 6 to 7? How much is careers fundamentally built into your options choices at year 8, 9 and into year 10? How much does that feature into transitions into the FE sector or into the world of work? And we've really heard today firsthand as well how incredibly inspirational involving your local employers can be in that process overall, and how much that brings this topic alive for our parents overall. I think those interactions for me as a parent would have been astonishingly impactful when my children were at school. So just to summarise today, I think there are two calls to action for everybody in the audience and everybody listening online today. And the first of those is a principle that we use all the time. And that principle is, what do you want your parents or your groups of parents to know, understand and be able to do? Can you really define that for the cohorts of parents within your school overall? And once you've made that definition and thought hard about how you're going to really target different groups of parents, what is your strategic approach to that? So parental engagement is often either scattergun, because we just think about sending something out, or it's more generic and it's not specifically linked to careers. But one takeaway for me today is that every single touch point you have with a parent in your school can be a careers touch point. And careers is often a really positive engagement tool, particularly for parents who are less engaged with school because their messaging is often negative. So use careers and the power of careers and its potential to your advantage in terms of engaging your parents overall. So thank you for coming today. Thank you for engaging with us online. You will all be sent recordings of today so that you can revisit the topics as often as you like. I'd like to encourage you to fill in the evaluation form that will be sent to you, because that really helps us. I expect a really high return rate today of the evaluation forms. And all that remains is for me to say thanks to those of you that joined us online, and we'll see you for the next Excellence seminar. For those of you that are here in the room, there is an opportunity to continue to network with each other over refreshments and coffee. And for those of you that are pre-signed up to the Parental Engagement CPD workshop, that will commence at 12:15 today. But thanks everybody for taking part.